Start the revolution. Here we go. 1, 2.
Well, I love all music, of course, but classical speaks to me in a very special way. I see how we can shape it, how it's sexy, how it can be violent, how it can be profound, and I want to share that with all kinds of people who I know, but who avoid the concert hall. I think today that there is a call for a new tradition, even around fine arts, and we could probably preserve the traditional concert experience as long as this new tradition welcomes people at whatever level they are. So in a bar or a club or a community center, it doesn't matter if people clap between the movements or call out in support of a musician who's doing a solo. So in the late 50s, Leonard Bernstein did the famous Young People's Concerts, and it was an eye-opener, not only for children who watched them, but also for their parents, for adults who were curious about this music and why people would play it, or how it got to be such a wonderful way of doing music. So all of us musicians now have to become Leonard Bernsteins. I've been asked, well, you must play jazz, why don't you play jazz? Or I'll bet your jazz is really good. And I'm like, well, no, I actually like classical. In fact, I even love classical. Classical's changed my life.
Anyway, so we're so glad to be here. Classical Revolution Detroit, again, is the name of the series. With our Knight Foundation grant, we can span to 3 times per month across the city of Detroit. So that's just what we're going to do. I'm so glad to be here in Corktown for our first time. We're going to continue now with a bona fide symphony by Ludwig van Beethoven. This is probably the St. CeCe's premiere, so sit back and order another beer, and one for me too. Thanks.
In classical music, it's about making these forms take our audience on a journey, a spiritual journey. In fact, it's a lot like being in a church, and everyone's respectful and polite and waiting for this service to lift them out of their seats, lift us out of our bodies into our own imaginations, essentially. So it's imperative that we have art that lifts us out of our own experience. Classical music does that for a lot of us. Cut time in music means 2 beats per bar, and it indicates a fast tempo or easy swinging beat, and I use that to indicate we need to make classical music easy and swinging and fast and lively for new audiences. So cut time is a great way to introduce classical music to people who don't come to Orchestra Hall, where I used to play with the Detroit Symphony Orchestra. I want to show everyone in my community that classical music has something to offer them. And as a composer, I've been able to show that better than any other way, by blending some urban pop and familiar soul and gospel riffs in with my classical compositions. I've gone from being very art-centric musician, like most of my colleagues, focusing on these fine details and making sure the music has the impact that we would like to see, to becoming one who's audience-centric, putting myself in the seat, if you will, of people I'd like to see come to our concerts, so that the music really matters to them. And that's a different kind of artistry, in order to be sure to make that connection, be sure to connect with the audience, as opposed to the classical tradition. My best moments are at Classical Revolution Detroit when some young person comes up to me and says, wow, that was really fantastic. I didn't know I liked classical music like that. When are you coming back? That for me is priceless.